Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to do a deep dive into debt settlement negotiations. And these are some of the things that the debt collection agencies or lawyers who are working for original creditors don't readily want you to know about when you're going into a negotiation process. Now, if you have a debt that was purchased by a third-party debt collector, or if you have a lawyer or a law firm or debt collection company coming after you for a debt that they purchased or for a debt that they've been contracted to collect for the original creditor, this video will help you out, and it's going to share insider information on how my company does it so it can help you move forward if you have any type of debt collection where you want to go ahead and do a settlement with the company, but you want to get that settlement at the lowest price. So first, let's just talk about a few things here. You got to have your goal in mind. When I speak to people about this, or, one of my customer service reps speaks to someone about going into a settlement phase, and if you've been on my channel for any period of time, you know that the way that we do our process with credit repairs, I say we have a two-phase settlement phase. And the reason why we have that is because we know that some of the times for you to be able to move forward, you're gonna have to do settlements either with the original creditor or even with a debt collector, just so you could just put things, aside and just be able to move forward with what you want to do. So first, you got to think, what is your ultimate goal? When dealing with customers, there are some customers who do not want to go to court. So, number one, and I put this on here, even though these decisions are made in a group, but top of mind, one of the number one things that I like to ask my clients is court okay or court not okay? And so what I mean by that is, if this thing ends up getting stretched out to where you have to go to court, are you okay with going into court? Because some people do not want to go to court. Some people just do not want to be in that courtroom, to have the judge, to have the plaintiff attorney asking them questions, or just to be questioned on anything. That is a temperament of the individual, and there is no right or wrong. Now, I'm going to let you know at the end, I'm going to break this down on if you go to court, you could still negotiate. But some people do not have the temperament to even want to go into court. Like, they're just scared. They don't want to go in there to talk about anything. They just want to deal with this whole thing without going to court. So we're going to talk more on that in a minute. Next is asset disclosure or no disclosure. This is a very important piece when it comes to being able to negotiate. Now, some collection companies have not been asking for disclosures, and I'm going to tell you the reason behind that in a minute. But just so you know, some companies, some collectors, before they will negotiate, especially when they're given a huge discount on what they're gonna on the principal amount. So say, for instance, you owed $50,000 and you said, I want to settle for $10,000. They're going to usually, some of the times, ask for asset disclosure, and you got to make that decision at the beginning. If they ask me for this, am I willing to do that? Because if you're not willing to do it, then you have to take another path to doing your settlement. You got to understand that if you don't want to do this, because this is one of the tactics that they'll use to not give you a discount, to not lower the amount that they want to settle on. But I'm going to still show you how you will get to that lower amount. Now, the next thing is, do you have a lump sum or no lump sum? I've had clients or people on YouTube come to me and they ask a question, and then I'm like, okay, you got to think about it this way. If you're going to request a discount from a collector or the original creditor, like you want to make a settlement offer to them. The way for them to save face is to say, okay, if you're going to ask us to give you this huge discount on the principal amount for what we're trying to sue you for, or what we're trying to collect from you, well, we want to have it in one lump sum. So some people, and I think it's just the misconception and not understanding, a original creditor or debt collector is not going to give you a discount unless you do a lump sum. If there's no lump sum, then they're going to say, well, we're going to wait on the payments anyway, so we might as well get all of it. In some cases, we've been able to negotiate a discount and payments. And that usually happens when the client will put down a down payment. We've been able to do that. But most of the time, if they have to wait on payments, there's really no incentive for them to give a huge discount on the debt that they're trying to collect. Now, the next thing is to make clear that you understand, because this is something that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, especially when they're getting sued. You gotta find out where, if it's an original creditor or a third-party debt collector. The reason why that's so important is because even though if it's a third-party debt collector coming after you, they purchased the debt. So when I say third party, that means that they purchased the debt. Now, you can have a third-party collector collecting it for the original creditor, but if the original creditor holds the debt, there's going to be another path to dealing with the settlement with them, and I'm going to get into that in a second. And then negotiations. Are you going to be negotiating with a rep for the company or a lawyer? And I can tell you that when I negotiate with the lawyers, I always get a lower amount on the settlement. When I negotiate with the reps, they tend to keep it at a higher amount. As a matter of fact, the one that I just finished settling a week or two ago, about 3 weeks ago, the rep for the company was like, she was like, even when we do the settlement, we're gonna get a judgment against your client also. I'm like, how can you accept the settlement and then still go through and get a judgment? And so she just didn't know what she was talking about. So what I did is I just went over the rep's head and went straight to the lawyer. The lawyer settled it for less than what the rep was offering. And the court case was dismissed for the client. Now, with the goal with that was that client did not want to go to court and did not want to have a judgment placed on their public records. They just did not. And so that goes back again with the goal. So now let's break this down real quick. On how you deal with the conversation, the back and forth conversation. Once you know all of this about what your goals are and what you're dealing with, what you're willing to do, what you have available to settle. If it's a third party or original creditor, if you're going to be dealing with the rep or the lawyer, let me tell you how that conversation is going to go when you do the back and forth with them. First, let's just take it, for example, if you're dealing with the rep. So you call them up, and they go through all of their disclosures where this is an attempt to collect the debt. Anything that you say will, that stuff there. They verify that you're the right person on the phone. And then the rep is going to usually say the amount that you owe and are you ready to make payment on that? That's just the way that they're going to do it. They're trained to do that. And that goes into a big part of why the reps actually stick with the higher amount, because it's just like they're robots. This is the way that they're trained to do it. And any employee, this is something that I even learned with my company, is that as the owner, I know that I have the flexibility. As a employee, which the reps are employees, they do not have the ability to be flexible. Everything that they're flexible on was already written into their screen or whatever they're looking at. So you're talking to the rep, and this is what the rep is going to do. They're going to, after the disclosures, after they know that it's you, do all that verification, they're going to tell you the whole amount, and then they're going to say, are you ready to make payment on that? And then you go into the negotiation process, and then depending on where you're at, if you are lump sum or payments, is where you're going to start that negotiation process. Now, let's just say that you're a lump sum, let's just say the debt is what, $10K. Let's just say the debt is $10,000. So a lot of my clients will ask me, well, where should I start at? If I have $5,000 to offer on the 10K, should I just offer them straight up $5,000? The answer is no. The answer is no. And the answer is no, not because it wouldn't be right for you to offer 5K. The answer is no because of the way that we're built as humans. So think about it this way. This is how negotiations work. Think about it this way. If I was to come to you and say, hey, you owe me $10,000, and you just came back and said, I'll give you $5,000 right now on the $10,000. Like you just came straight out and said, here's $5,000 so we can just shut this down and you can go on. We won't be buddies anymore, or whatever it is. The human mind works this way. If the easier it is for you to pay that, the more they're going to think that they could have got more out of you. Especially if you're dealing with reps. So that's why with the reps, what they'll do is they're going to go into their screen. They might put you on hold, and they'll pretend like they're calling their client, and their client has already told them an amount that they would accept as an offer. So if you had 5K that you can offer, I would say that you should go in there at about $3,000 on the 10. Because you are I'm telling you for someone who does this, is that especially if you're dealing with a rep, they are going to say that their client, maybe they can, or maybe they can't. They're going to come back. They're going to usually come back, I would say somewhere on 10K, they might come back at about $8,000 and say, our client said that we can't do it, but we can do it for $8,000. So that already lets you know that, number one, you started the negotiations and you already see that they would go down, because think about this. When they first started the conversation, what did they say? They said, you want to pay on the whole amount. They didn't even say anything about getting a discount. So you already know that there's wiggle room. But the rep, if you're dealing with a rep, and you got to be careful if you're handling your own negotiations, because they could get into asking certain questions that you don't want to answer. Remember, I talked about asset disclosures and all, and make a disclosure to them. If you don't want to disclose any of that, you have to be very careful, because they will just throw that out there to screw up the negotiation process. So think about it this way. They say, okay, we will go down to $6,000, but we want to see, we want you to fill out a financial disclosure statement. And if you already said you don't want to disclose anything because you might have a little bit extra cash in your bank account, like one of the negotiations that I went through, the company said, okay, we'll give your client this huge discount. It was about $58,000, and we offered $12,000. Okay, we'll give it to you, but we want 3 months of bank statements. We want 3 months of bank statements. Why do they want 3 months of bank statements? They want 3 months of bank statements to see how much money is flowing in and out of the account. So if you are not okay with the asset disclosure and you are on the phone with them, then you're going to have to figure out a way to bag out of that conversation and get back into the negotiation part, because they're going to be focusing on that, because that is their leverage that they have against you. When we are doing it for our clients, we listen to that, and then we know instantly that you have to have a comeback on that to get your client out of that asset disclosure part. And we have very secretive maneuvers that we utilize, but I mean, really what you have to do is you have to just get the negotiation back on the money and off of the individual documents. That's what you got to do. So if you have, so you started out with 3,000, they came back with 8,000, maybe they came back at 7,000, then you're going to start that process, and it may not be able to be closed out that day. Now, this goes back into court or no court. If you have a court date set up, and you do not want to go to court, then you know that you're going to have to come to some agreement within this. You might have to end up paying a little bit more if you don't want to go to court, but you're going to have to start focusing on that back and forth. When we have clients that do not want to go to court, we have to call day after day after day after day to get to a settlement amount. I can tell you from experience that the reps don't care about going to court because they just say the company attorneys are handling that. They don't even know anything about that part. The lawyers do not want to go to court. They try to resolve everything without going to court. Because if they go to court, that's going to take away, number one, from their time. Lawyers do not like to have to always go into court. They like to resolve things and be able to move around freely throughout the day. Trust me, most of them want to live that type of lifestyles. But they will always try to come to a resolution. But if you have a court date set up and you know you don't want to go to court, then you're going to have to call day after day after day after day to get some type of settlement, and you're going to have to go back and forth with them. And if you have your ultimate goal in mind, not to go to court, you're going to probably end up settling that debt for a little bit higher than you would if you were to go to court. If you say, okay, I'm willing to go to court, I'm willing to gamble on this whole thing, and you're like, okay, Steve, I'm going to end up getting a judgment. No, you can actually still go to court, have them hear out your whole summons, your comeback, making them prove the debt, all of the different things that you can put into your affirmative defense. And then if it looks like you're going to lose, guess what? You could ask the judge for a few moments with the plaintiff attorney. And now it's going to put you right where I told you, because I said that the plaintiff attorney is usually the one that can get the lowest settlement amount. That, like, they want to resolve it. And so if you end up going to court and you're going to lose, you can say, hey, can I spend some time with the lawyer to come to some resolution? The judge is always going to want you to come to a resolution. You can go into one of the conference rooms, come to an agreement. If you have a lump sum to offer, you could do that. If you have payments, you could do that. And you could tell them, can they just hold off on the case? If you're doing payments, can they just hold off on it? And then if you don't follow through with the payments, they could just go ahead and get the judgment. If you have a lump sum, then you would offer them the lump sum, kind of that agreement, and then they would dismiss the case. They will always dismiss the case because they're not going to do that. Now, if you're dealing with third party or original creditor, if the law firm purchased the debt, they will tend to give you the biggest discount on doing a settlement. If it's the original creditor, one of the issues that could come about is that they gotta have they always got to get the information to the original creditor to make a decision if it's going to be lower. Now, the original creditor is always going to give them an amount that they can go in. Like they will never tell you that amount, and some of the times you have to just keep pounding on them to get to that amount. But the original creditor is going to say, hey, right out the box, maybe 75%. Depending on how old and the debt is, they're going to usually jump out about 75%. That's where they're going to be at. But if you end up pushing it and going into court, the attorney is going to have that amount, but they're going to want to resolve it because it makes them look good in front of their client. So what they're going to do is they're going to have to get on the phone or make some calls, or maybe they already just know. And then if your offer is pretty good and solid, that they'll go ahead and take it. They'll say, hey, you got 7 to 10 days to get that to us. As soon as you get it to us, we'll dismiss the case. And I see that happen a lot with the attorneys. And I would still say, even with the attorney, so say, for instance, you were negotiating with the rep. You said you wanted to go ahead and go to court. And usually when you get into court, they're not going to be asking for this stuff. They're going to be trying to resolve it because they got you right in front of them. And then if you're going to do a lump sum and you had a lawyer right in front of you, it doesn't matter, third party or original creditor, you should still start off low because they want to resolve that case. They want to get the money. The name of the game for them is to get as much money as possible. And really, if you're making payments, even though some of the companies do specialize in just having a whole bunch of payments come in, most of the companies want to get go ahead and do a settlement, get as much of that money as possible so they could just move on. Because here's one of the things that the companies, the debt collection companies or the attorneys don't want you to know about, which is something that I know about because I have employees from, I have lots of employees, and some of them are getting garnished. I'll just put it out there. And not with the credit repair shop, but what they'll do is that every 13 weeks, they have to go back to renew that garnishment order. And yeah, it's paperwork. Yeah, you got to go in, but you got to go in there in front of a judge, submit the paperwork to get that garnishment order renewed. So that's every 13 weeks. That means that if anything gets challenged, anything changes, the payments on that whole thing can stop. What if the person gets tired of making payments and they decide to file bankruptcy? The payments stop. So you have that leverage behind you, but you can't just throw it out there. Hey, I'm going to file bankruptcy. That used to work in the old days. That is not working now. If you're going to file bankruptcy, they're going to say, as soon as you get us that notification from your bankruptcy attorney, then we will start talking more about doing a huge settlement amount. They're going to do that. So I hope that this information helped you out. If you have third-party debt collectors or collection from the original creditor trying to come after you, this is some excellent information to help you be able to move forward with dealing with that. If you want to have our company help you with it, we could look at your situation and then tell you how much it would cost to help you with it. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes a Difference, so you can see my 8-point validation process and my two-phase settlement process to help settle debt. Remember, I talked about that. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com. Grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters. That can stop some of this from happening. My 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations, debt validation, cease and desist, collection activities letter. Use the one that's appropriate for your specific situation. I have links below for a whole bunch of different products and services that we offer. One that I just put on there is to help you settle debt. If you don't want to talk to them over the phone, you can get these structured letters that I've created to help you negotiate with them by mail. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, or email. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder.